Thank you. I'm looking for my slides, so while I'm waiting for that, I would like to know a little bit about you guys, because I will be talking about software development and Agile. How many of you could raise your hand if you heard about Agile software development before? Most of you haven't. Okay, then I will try to adapt my message to that. It's very much about management. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. There my slides is. So we develop software for a reason, obviously. And you are, many of you, I think, dealing with management. And my talk will be very much about management, about how we deliver the benefits from what we do. Because why do we develop software? Well, it's very much fun to program. But that's not the main reason. Of course, we want that to give some benefit, some gain to someone. And let's find the right button here. That one? Low one. That one, yep. So we do that, and if you start at the top benefit, and we can discuss what is the main benefit of all, but I think it's happiness. So, and I start with this because you should understand how important it is to be successful in software development. So, we might have heard that money is not creating happiness, but if we look at the statistics, we can see a very linear relationship between a country's wealth and the average happiness in that country. So here is the annual happiness index. I think my country, Norway, is actually quite on the top. Nepal was in the middle, I believe. And that is highly correlated with the BNP, or GNP, I mean, the wealth. And then the next question is, what is, and of course, I do not say that getting more money makes you happy, but the things that you can do when having more wealth in a country makes the population more happy. And it's, of course, not everything that makes us happy as well. But it's an important part of it, which is clearly demonstrated by the linear relationship here. So, and what creates wealth? Well, it looks like the key factor for increasing wealth in a nation is technology. And technology, within technology, is investment in ICT that create the productivity increase. And within ICT, it's software development. So what we are dealing with here is that software development, successful software development, is the key factor for making us happy. That illustrates the importance of being successful. And yeah, there are studies, economic studies about that, and the introduction and the improvement that we get from investments in ICT are as important or even more important than when we invented steam engine and when we introduced electricity. Okay, so then, yeah, that is what I recently said. So how do we ensure that when we invest in software development, we get the gains, the benefit, the value? And that is what I've been doing research about. How do we ensure that it's not only delivering technology, some deliveries, but it's also making benefits, the gains and the value? And traditionally, software development project has been based on, as the previous speaker told us, we have a requirement specification, and then in the end, we have some deliverables. And while these deliverables are usually technical deliverables, the idea here behind benefits management is that the software project, the team, should have a wider responsibility. not only for the technical delivery, they should also be involved in, be responsible that the actual benefits are realized. And that is what I will be talking more about, which in essence means that the software development projects, the teams, should have a wider responsibility, what is currently usually the case. And while that is happening in many countries these days, it's still on the beginning of a trend, I believe, that we will see more and more, especially since we are working Agile. I will say more about Agile. But Agile, for all of you who haven't heard about before, is the new way. Well, it's not that new anymore. It was there since the beginning of 2000, 2001. So, but that's the new way of developing software. And it's fortunately very well connected with the ability to deliver value or benefits. So, and there is, Agile is based on a lot of principles. Agile is a lot of things. It's not only one thing. But one of the key principles is that we are there to deliver frequently, not only in the end of a large project, but frequently during the project, delivering value. And the focus is on valuable software. While, as I mentioned, traditionally very much focused on deliverables, technical deliverables, here the focus is on realizing benefits. And there's also other principles. There are in all 12 of them. It's also a change in that in the old times, or still what is much the case, we thought about the requirements which should be fulfilled. They were should be stable. Otherwise, we had a lot of bad things called scope creep and bad things. But with a new way of doing things, flexibility and changes are actually good. Changes are good because we cannot expect that we, in the beginning of a project, know everything that will be valuable. So we have to use the project to learn, to have deliverables and get feedback. And that also means a close contact with the business part, with the users, with the society that's supposed to use it. So that is what I will... I'm missing this. So this is what benefits management is about. It's a lot of activities, which is not common to be in software project these days, but we have studied, and if you do these things, it's much more likely that your project will give benefits, and in the end, more happiness. So we have to start with why are we developing software? And I'm working both as a professor, but also as a consultant with the industry. And I give support and I quality assure a lot of projects. And it's surprisingly often that people start a project without really knowing why they are doing it, what they try to achieve. And they say, we need a new system for this and that. But they don't explain what do we actually want to achieve. And that is where benefit management starts. You have to start with being very clear about what kind of benefits do we want to achieve. And these benefits also should be formulated in a way that makes it possible to evaluate. It's not enough to say we want to get better or want to have high quality or something. You have to be precise about what you want to achieve. Then you have to have a plan for that. I think I spoke to one yesterday about this, about a strategy, having a strategy or having goals. It's not enough. You need to have a good plan for how to realize it. And that is also part of benefit management. Let's say you want to have cost savings in a company, or that the user should spend less time on filling out applications. Then you need to have to plan, how should I ensure that my deliverables, the project deliverables, will actually achieve that? Well, the only way is to use it and get frequently feedback. Does it actually deliver on this? And not hope that in the end everything is shipped, that will happen. Yeah, and then you have to manage through the benefits. It's not something that you do in the end. It's something you do throughout the project. And then you have to evaluate whether actually have achieved it. These steps are quite obvious, but when you look at most projects in the software field, they are not actually doing that. So it's a sort of a gambling whether you actually achieve the benefits in the end. Here is sort of continuous support, feedback on whether you will achieve it and you actually will evaluate it. So we have done a lot of studies on seeing what happens if you use Agile software development with this feedback, with this benefit management, to see if it helps. And here's the first study, that's the oldest one. And there's a lot of numbers here. But it basically, and these numbers means that it's an increase in success. So every positive number, and all of them are positive, means that it helps. So Agile in general has a increase in ability to deliver the benefits. It also helps for technical quality, budget control, and time control and efficiency. But especially for delivering benefits, it's useful to use Agile software development. But what is important here, and the key finding, was that it doesn't help that you use this method called Agile unless you have a focus on frequent deliveries throughout the project, and you have a flexibility. Very many projects these days, they don't have this flexibility. They have a fixed description of requirements, maybe based on a fixed price contract with a provider. And then it's very hard to have this flexibility to learn from the feedback and maximize the benefits. So using Agile in the right way with these two key elements, frequent deliveries with feedback and having flexibility, is key. So we found that if you're using Agile without these two elements, then it was not using Agile. So when people say we are developing software in an Agile way, you should always think or ask them about which principles, which elements of Agile are you actually using? Because there are many not efficient way of using Agile. Okay, another one. In the beginning, it was thought that Agile and with these feedback elements and this focus on benefits were only proper for small projects. So we did a study on large projects, and again, we found this effect that Agile, when you have Agile with these two practices, frequent deliveries with feedback combined with flexibility, then this is the blue line here, then it works well for even the largest. And large here means more than about $10 million. So then it works well for the largest one as well. While if you use Agile without these two elements, it sort of has a decline for the largest ones. And non-Agile has lower values for all of them. So it also shows that when it comes to benefits, Agile works well. This is another study, and it shows some of the mechanisms. I'm not sure you can read all of this, but it basically says that what are the mechanisms that combine working the Agile way and having a successful outcome? And it has to do with a focus on involvement of the clients, of the users. It has to do with the flexibility, as I mentioned earlier. This flexibility is extremely important. We have discovered that many of the projects that we have studied, what gave the most benefit was things that they haven't thought about when they started the project. So unless you have a flexibility, getting feedback, learning throughout your project, you will very often miss some of the largest, best opportunities to give value. So this idea that we had in the old days, that we should know everything before we started the project, that is obviously wrong. We learn a lot, we can learn a lot throughout the project. And that's what this actually says, that we have this combination of focus on benefit management and Agile is very, very efficient. So that's a key message. If you don't remember anything else today, so then you should should at least remember that this thing called Agile, which is the new kid in the block, in a way, the way we do things in software development and benefit management to maximize the benefits and the happiness of people, this is a very good match. And if you are somehow involved in a software project, or you have to manage it or somehow connected with it, you should ensure that this happens. Yeah, this is the last one of the findings. Yeah, so we identified some factors. It's important to have one especially responsible that we realize the benefits. So that should not be a person distant from the project, should be within the team. So this benefit management responsible person should be included in the team. And a plan, that was what I mentioned earlier. We find clearly that those having a plan for how to realize, not only what we want to realize, but be very concrete about how will I realize the cost savings, the higher user happiness, all these things. And then there are ways of doing that. So, yeah, and the benefits should be possible to evaluate. You can read this, but hopefully it will be distributed, these slides, later on. So, based on these findings, I summarize some of the important things when doing proper benefit management within a software project. It's important to try to identify all the benefits. Of course, that should not prevent you to find new benefits through the project. And you should separate benefits from deliverables. Deliverables are technical software that you give, but the benefits are what you try to achieve. Yeah, and you should ensure that it's possible to evaluate. Never have a benefit that is not possible to evaluate, whether you have met it or not, whether you have realized it or not. You should plan it. And you should, as I repeated several times, have a flexibility. It's high risk if you have a project with no flexibility in what to achieve and what are the deliverables. High risk of failures. That we have showed repeatedly. Yeah, and you should manage the project throughout its execution in order to realize it. It's not something that you just do in the beginning or the end. This is something that you do throughout the project. That's maybe the strongest new thing, that benefit management needs to be done throughout the project. Yeah, and we use Agile and have a person responsible for the benefit management. Of course, it's everyone's responsibility in a way, but having one person particularly in charge to receive the feedback, to market your functionality, how it's meant to be used, to be a good, and that person actually doesn't have to be a software developer. That could very often be a person with good communication skills. Good communication skills to get the feedback. Yeah, and ensure this involvement by the clients. Yeah, so these are the last messages. In order to say that you are successful in a software development project, it's not enough that you are on time, on schedule, with the specified requirements. That was the old way of measuring success. You need to deliver benefits. And in order to do that, it's very beneficial to use Agile with these elements that I have pointed out. But it's not sufficient to use Agile. You also need this focus on, during the execution, to ensure that what you deliver is what the user actually needs and what gives the benefit. So that means, what I started with, the teams and the project should have a wider responsibility than is currently often the case. They should also have the responsibility that the benefits are realized. And with that, I conclude.